Welcome to What Can I Paint Next? Section A, Exercise 7. This is the third, looking at a subject of an object. This time we're going to add more objects. We're going to start to build that still life idea. The first two were the object as a noun, the object as a noun with some description. Now we're looking at what the objects are doing. When I say that, I mean, are they standing or are they sitting on something? Are they holding or cupping or surrounding something? You can start to look at the interactions between the objects within the still life, and it will give you some idea of when you're setting up a still life, how do you want those things interacting rather than just having them lining up. They could be separated in a line, but they're interacting, they're doing something. That's the whole point of this exercise, is to really start to help you think about what all the objects are doing. So we're going to start looking at that using the planning sheet. We have exercise 7 planning sheet, objects. In this one, I've used a artist mannequin and some paintbrushes and a jar. Just going to mention those three things. So a jar, paintbrushes, and the mannequin. And we're going to describe those three things separately. I've left a little bit more of a gap on the planning sheet for that. The jar, square, glass, tall, jar. Paintbrushes, dirty, used, full of paint, working. And the mannequin, wooden, traditional. Those words are describing what those objects are, what they look like. Now we're going to look at some actions. What is the jar doing? The jar is holding the paintbrushes. It's sitting on the surface. What are the paintbrushes doing? The paintbrushes are standing in the jar, leaning against the edge of the jar. And what about the mannequin? What is the mannequin doing? The mannequin is leaning back, pulling on a paintbrush, holding the paintbrush. So I didn't set up this still life and then start thinking about the actions. I actually had the actions in my head whilst I was setting the still life up. So I was thinking, what do I want these objects to be doing within the still life? Right, what sources? I've set up a still life. With lighting. Top lit. I've just used a very bright light from the top just to give some nice shadows. There's not a lot of colour in this. Materials. Acrylics. The 6 normal colours. The raw umber, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, crimson red, cadmium yellow, titanium white. Surface, 30 by 40 centimetre canvas. The materials and the surface, I'm keeping them very similar throughout the whole course so that you can see the progression in the exercises rather than getting confused over, well, what's she using now? What's she doing? You can let your imagination go. That's the whole point. Time estimate. That 4-hour window at the moment, I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to say there is quite a bit more to it. I'm going to say 5 or 6 hours on this one. So that means how am I going to fit it into, am I going to do it in one day over 2 days? I think I'll do this over 2 days. And let's look at the fundamentals. Line. I think line's going to be very important in this one because there's not a huge range of colours. So I'm going to say 3 for line. Tone, 4. Shape, 5. Texture, I'm going to be going for the texture of the wood, but it's not what the painting is about. Colour, 2. That's not really an issue in this one. I could even do this in grayscale or sepia tones and it would still work as well. Composition, that is a really important one in this. Shape and composition. One thing I have noticed is, I don't know if you can see these paintbrushes here. There's actually, the paintbrush that's being held has got red on it, and the paintbrush that's leaning that way next to it has got blue and yellow. So in colour, I'm just going to put apart from paintbrushes, because I might actually use the fact that there's those 3 primary colours on those brushes to pick out a little bit more emphasis in the painting. Right, I think I'm ready to have a go at this. Get some paints out, got my canvas, all set up. I'll make a start on the painting. You can watch along and I'll see you in a bit. And here's the painting for exercise 7, where we looked at the interaction between the object in the still life. So now we've got the idea of building a paragraph in visual terms. We've got the objects, we've got describing them using our skills with the wood, the glass, the dirtiness of the paintbrushes. Then we've started to put that together with verbs, doing words. All these things come together to actually make this image that has some sort of narrative behind it, some sort of meaning. And I think rather than just painting one thing or things next to each other that have no relevance or no significant interaction between each other, although it is possible to get absolutely stunning paintings from that, if you want to make your work more personal and actually get some more ideas, this is the path that's good to go down. The decision-making processes of putting objects together to say something is what we're looking at. And in exercise 8, that's what we're going to be looking at even more. We're going to start introducing the idea of narrative behind the painting, and also take into consideration who's looking at the painting, looking at the viewer. So thanks very much for joining me again, and I'll see you in the next exercise. Thanks very much. Bye.